So several years ago, when I had my first iPod, hadn't had it very long, maybe a few months, I think, and I had a problem with the battery. I think it wouldn't, wasn't holding the charge, or and it finally just stopped working, or so I took it to the Apple Store in Santa Monica to the Genius Bar. The woman looked at it and basically told me it was my fault. Whatever happened, it was my fault. By the way, Apple later had a class action lawsuit over those batteries, and they lost. So I think that probably wasn't me. But I was just not happy with the way Apple handled it. I thought it was very tacky. So I wrote to Steve Jobs, um, wrote to his office, sent the iPod in a little box, and said, I gave three R's. I said, you know, repair it, replace it, or refund my money. A few days later, I got a call from his assistant. She said, Greg, is it okay if we open the box? And I said, yeah, it's not going to blow up or anything. Um, and so a few days later, I got a new iPod in the mail. So, needless to say, I was so impressed by the way Steve Jobs or his office handled that I just, thought Apple was the greatest thing. That they had excellent customer service. If something went wrong, they really went out of their way to make sure you were happy. Um, as I say, they should have listened because they did get sued later on. But that said, so I was in love with Apple at that point. So when I later had a problem with my MacBook, several years later, and I made a separate video about that. I eventually, after trying the managers at the local store and the Better Business Bureau, thought, I'll write to Tim Cook. I thought, Steve Jobs did a great job, bent over backwards, to make the customer happy. Maybe Tim Cook will be the same way. Well, I wrote the letter, said what kind of customer service is this, and explained what happened, the damage to the computer that had happened because of the battery, and when I took it in for repair. And basically, I got a letter back. I don't know, it was a week or two later, 2 weeks later, or something, bouncing it back to the team at the local Century City store, the ones that I was complaining about. So, needless to say, that did not really do anything, and I ended up suing Apple. Shortly thereafter, I took them to small claims court, and I won a $1,680 judgment, almost $1,700, and it felt great, because Apple just dug in. They would not do a damn thing. They weren't going to bend over backwards to help the customer, that's for sure. And so it was just such a different experience between Steve Jobs and Tim Cook that I can definitely say that when it comes to customer service, Tim Cook is no Steve Jobs. And the guy definitely needs some training on customer service. I think the head of the Apple stores, the woman they hired from Burberry to head the Apple stores, I think she needs training on customer service. I think the managers at the Apple store need training on customer service, and most of the employees in there. I think the bigger Apple gets, they're just getting so out of touch with their customers. It's just horrible. Their main point when you go in is to tell you why it's your problem, or why you caused the problem, why they're not going to do anything about it. And it's just horrible customer service. It's not like a company like Nordstrom, which is known for bending over backwards to keep people happy. So Apple has a lot to do to get better, to reform their customer service, to improve their customer service, starting from the top down.